Hi, I'm Eileen Carroll, host of Unseen to Unstoppable. On this episode, our guest is Dr. Breese Annable. She is a clinical psychologist with over 15 years of experience, combines with her professional expertise with the lessons from her own midlife career reinvention. She works with professional women in midlife, ready to align their careers with what matters most, who they are at their core, and leverage their unique talents. Her clients emerge inspired, energized, and equipped to create work that is purposeful, exciting, and deeply fulfilling, making a meaningful impact in the world. Dr. Brees, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be with you.
So this has been a long time coming. We we had some scheduling glitches. I'm Gen X, so I'm thankful to have some Gen Z people, around me. We did the whole calendar thing, and I swear to you, I promise you, we did set it up, but somehow stuff went through. And so I just appreciate people who are so patient. My OBGYN, on my last visit with her, she was telling me how she was having a conversation with her staff, and she said something so poignant for me. It's like she said, people are in constant road rage.
Mm.
So
Maybe not a unfair assessment these days.
I just want to say thank you so much for attempting the second time to be with me and share your journey and how you're helping other women. I appreciate you so much.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here and not have no rage whatsoever. So we're starting off on a good foot.
So listen, I know I read your bio, but tell us what you're doing about your work.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I am a clinical psychologist and have worked as a clinical psychologist my entire career. I um, really knew I wanted to be a psychologist from literally day one of college. So I'm very, not the norm in that way, but so I've done that work for a very long time. And for the majority of my career, absolutely loved the work that I did. It was challenging, it was inspiring, it was just really, really meaningful, wonderful work. And truly, I thought I would do it until I retired. And so, I came into midlife, and long story short, really unexpectedly, um, experienced stagnation in my work. What was once really felt exciting and interesting and challenging every day, started to feel monotonous and a little routine. And I also started to deal with some burnout as well, for what I would say would maybe be overlapping, but some separate reasons as well. And so, I came into midlife and really felt very unprepared for the professional stagnation and burnout that I felt. And so it's really in the process of my own experience, working my way and moving my way through stagnation and burnout, coming out on the other side, I now, in addition to continuing to do work as a clinical psychologist, I now help midlife women pivot and change their careers for other women who have dealt with stagnation and burnout as well. So I now do both of that work still as a psychologist, and do my coaching work again with midlife women, helping them with career change.
That is amazing. Something that you said struck me though. You said you always knew that you wanted to be a psychologist. Like, at what age and why?
That is such a $1 million question. And I feel like as a psychologist, I should have a really good answer to it.
Yes, yes, you should. We come to you for all the answers. You're supposed to have all the answers.
Oh, I know. I don't know except to say it just always was so there was just always such an interest and an excitement with it. And, it's, I had different iterations of the kind of work that I was doing. I started off really interested in more of a medical direction with psychology. But then a large part of my career was also doing work, for example, with refugees and a lot of underserved populations. And so, I did lots of different things. So I think there was always this fundamental curiosity and interest in people. And then I just feel like one of the things that I always loved about psychology was that I could, there were just so many different ways that I could explore that, which I think was probably the reason that I've had such longevity in the field. Is, starting off at 18, and I went to graduate school at 23, pursuing my doctorate. I feel like I was able to really do a lot of personal growth. And, I'm obviously very different at almost 44 than I was at 18 and 23. But just being able to be in a field where I could really explore and follow these different interests, I think it always let me feel curious about the work that I was doing and just have a lot of variety and creativity. So I think big picture, that's something that I've really loved about psychology is, again, just the being able to, it's fundamentally always been about wanting to make a difference in people's lives. And then there were just so many different ways of being able to do that. So it really gave me this common, and still does give me this combination of deep purpose, as well as being able to have that purpose manifest and be lived out in lots of different ways.
You know, it's it's a blessing that there are people like you that like this type of work, because now I look at the world fast forward, especially after the pandemic, and so many people. I work with young people. I work with college students. I mentor college students, and I never thought about this until I started working with them. I don't know why. I don't know, but anyhow, maybe I'm in my own little bubble. But they have so much anxiety, you know,
Mm. Yes.
and I'm just so honored that I can maybe just help one,
Mhm.
because I never thought about that before. And then the suicide rate is so high and things like that. And so we need people like you. And that's why I asked you the question, because we need people like you that actually like what they do. And for
Mhm.
me, that means you're a person that you like people and you like to help people. And that's just what it
Mhm.
is. I mean, it's so odd, like for a nurse or a doctor, a teacher, it's like we assume for those people to have certain type of personalities, but they don't always.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so I can tell you've got really good energy, and I just appreciate you, and I that you're doing this work. And with a demographic that I keep hearing ever since we started this magazine is overlooked.
Mhm.
So when you help these women in midlife, what are some of the challenges that you feel affect them the most when they're trying to pivot?
You know, uh, Gosh, there's so many. I mean, I feel like there are, the challenges of midlife, which so many of the challenges with midlife, I think there is just a tremendous amount of responsibility. There's financial responsibility that we have. I think for so many women, there's the responsibility of being caretakers and the kind of managers of life, whether it's their own household. So many women that I also work with have, children and aging parents, or even just one of those things. But certainly,
Right.
aging parents is so incredibly common. And there are just so many realities of midlife and the responsibilities and very often the pressures that come with that I think then make it really difficult to feel like you can make a change, especially with something as big as your career. And then even just feeling very often for women, even feeling like it's a shift to actually start to look inward and pay attention to, what do I want? What matters to me? And I think that's another facet of it as well. I see a huge challenge is, just these external messages of what success looks like. And very often people have followed those metrics of success, and a lot of the women that I work with, and they've done a great job at it. I mean, you get to midlife, and you look back and you see, the results of years and decades of work. And then at the same time, what do you do when you get to that place and those same things no longer feel meaningful, or as challenging, but the path to how to do it differently isn't clear because we're not given that. So those are just a few things. I think the challenges are really, really big for midlife women, again, as far as the life circumstances. And then as far as career in particular, many women I work with are just high achieving, very successful women. And it's really difficult to step back and even imagine or know a different path of success other than the one that, we've been given.
So, based on that, are there any, because like you said, there's many challenges that women face. Are there any practical strategies that you would recommend? Let's just say for career. Let's keep it there with career.
Oh, absolutely. I am incredibly practical in my coaching work and my therapy work, in that I'm really big on people having, again, very practical, tangible ways of doing things differently. I say all the time, insight is necessary, but it's not sufficient, right? Like, we can understand something, but the rubber meets the road with being actually able to put something into practice or do it differently. So, all that being said, one of the most important first steps that I talk with women about is, if you're in a place where you're dealing with burnout, you're dealing with stagnation, one of the most important steps, and it sounds obvious, but it's to actually get really clear about the causes of your burnout, the causes of your stagnation, because those are words that, especially burnout, right? It's like that's a word that we're all incredibly familiar with, but people are not always clear about, well, what for me is causing that burnout, or why exactly am I feeling stagnant in my career? So that's the first step, is to really look at the specific causes, because what could be causing burnout or stagnation for one woman can be different than the other. And that is just such a necessary starting point, because I truly believe that being clear on that first step in a lot of ways can give you a big part of your roadmap moving forward. For example, I say all the time, burnout and stagnation and frustration, dread, those are your signals. They are your messengers. And so if you can hear what they have to say, then you start to be able to flip the coin. For example, if you say, well, a never ending workload is a big part of my burnout, or a really common one, my values don't align with my employer anymore. When you get clear about that, then you're able to have that information of, like, your system, your body, your mind is telling you that really matters to you. So already you're starting to be able to get some clarity from that.
Do you have, in particular, a success story that you'd like to share that illustrates that transformation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the women that I've worked with, she had built a really successful business, and, by all of these external measures of success in her particular industry, she, checked all the boxes, and yet was really just dragging herself to work every day. It just felt excruciating, and was felt lack of motivation, and just this dread going to work every day. And when we really stepped back and we got clear about what her what her burnout was telling her, then it became a matter of envisioning and starting to just think creatively. I remember, we started. I have some different strategies for people for how to brainstorm and think creatively, but we started there, just really in this place of spaciousness and imagination, and of saying, like, okay, like, what sounds interesting? What sounds exciting? We're using the information that we gathered from her burnout, and then started to just imagine and just think about what else was possible. And in that process, she was really able to get clear on a particular direction. And I will say, a lot of our work was on the self-doubt that came up, think questioning whether it was even possible. But now at this point, she has almost fully transitioned into a new career path. And we were joking the other day. She said, my biggest problem right now is that I'm so engrossed in what I'm doing, my legs go numb. And she's like, I have to remind myself to stand up and move my body, because she's like, every day I get to get up, I get to wake up and do work that I'm really excited about. And it's in such a different direction for her. And the really cool thing about the direction that she's gone in, which for her is writing, the cool thing about it is that it was always something that she loved to do, but it had just gotten sidelined for
Mm-hmm.
her in the pursuit of um, the boxes that you're supposed to check,
Right.
and so it was this way in which she got reconnected to something that was always there but had just been sidelined. And so it's just such a joy to hear, when we talk now, the excitement and the energy that she feels every day. It's like, at she's in her 50s, and it's like creativity has just come alive. So she is one of my just it just brings such a smile to my face every time I think about the work that we've been able to do together.
That's amazing. So, is she a part of this? You have a program. It's called the Brave New Beginnings program. Was she one of those clients? Was she part of that program?
She was actually a precursor to the program as I was starting to, do this work with people, and the program was not yet formed.
Hmm.
But a lot of the work that I was doing, that we were doing together, eventually did evolve into the Brave New Beginnings program.
So, what is the Brave New? What is it? The Brave New Beginnings program, and what makes it unique?
So the program is a 14-week group coaching program, and it is specifically designed for midlife women. That is one of the things that I think truly makes it unique, in that. There are lots of programs out there to help people change careers. There's certainly many, many career coaches out there. Um, but from my perspective, the experience of midlife, and to be a woman in midlife, is just it's a time that is, I believe, again, very unique and just different than other times in life. And so we certainly, if we want, can talk more about that. But that is one of the aspects of the program that I believe does make it unique. That it is, yes, it is a career change program, but it really situates career change within the realities and the context of midlife and what it's like to be a woman in midlife. Um, and so the program is, as I mentioned, a group coaching program. And that aspect of it as well, I believe, makes it unique, in that I became clear in the process of designing this program that I felt like community is critical. Because for me, when I went through my own career pivot and the burnout and the stagnation, I did it alone. And I feel like it made it harder, it made it slower, it made it feel more isolating.
Mm-hmm.
And I just believe so strongly in the power of community. And so I was very intentional to make it a group coaching program. So because I believe that women in midlife have so much wisdom, we have so much knowledge, and to be able to learn from one another and to be inspired by one another, I think is just something that why miss out on that, you know? Again, it is a group program for that reason, and the purpose of it is a couple of things. The big outcomes are really to help women find clarity, because there's so much noise, there's so much distraction, there's so much um, challenges and obstacles, as we've talked about, to doing something like pivoting or changing your career in midlife, that um, getting the clarity that you need to know the direction that you want to go in does not come easily. And so the goal of the program is to help women get clear about that. And then, as well, alongside it, to have the confidence that they need to be able to pursue a different direction. And as well, so I say clarity, courage, and or confidence and courage, because I believe really this is not the path of least resistance in life, to have the courage to make a big change like that. So that is what the program is about, is to help women to be able to have the courage, the clarity, and the confidence to pivot or change their careers, and to do it in community alongside one another.
The word community, I want to expound on that, because something you said, I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of women. This thought of going at it alone. I'm not sure why we're made that way. What happened to us? But anyway, men can't even find their keys, but they expect you to know where they are, right?
Well, and we usually do.
So I'm curious. Like, I want to expound on that. Like, this community support. One, how is it achieved? What does that look like? How do women receive that community support? I mean, is it a Facebook group? Expound more on that community support.
Yeah. Yeah. So it really is woven in a couple of different aspects of the program. So, one is that, so the program does have live coaching, and there is a weekly group, a weekly community group that women come to. And so let me just say first, the heart of the program is an online or self-paced course where they're really learning. It is the roadmap through the process. But then with that, once a week, we all come together to be able to pull from some of the themes and the content from the group, excuse me, the course that they're doing, where they really get an opportunity to discuss it in community. For example, some of the topics that we talk about are um, just what it's like to go through a transition in life where you don't know what's next. That's such a common experience in midlife, and how do you navigate those kind of transitions? Big topic is also how to start getting really connected to yourself and your own internal wisdom and compass, and so discussing what it's like to be connected to your intuition, the challenges that come up with that. We also talk about things like just the endings and the loss that a lot of times comes up in the process of deciding to move in a different direction in your career. And because the women I work with have been are very career focused, and so this is a big change. um, so that's just a few things that are discussed. But again, it is an opportunity for women to come together. They're not only learning about it in their own time, applying it in their own lives, but coming together in community and really sharing and talking about what the experience is like. And because it's coaching, there's always, tangible actions that they're taking, from those conversations. But that's I think, such a meaningful part of the program, is to really be alongside other women who are in this time of life and are having the courage to make big changes and challenging decisions. And then there is also a private Facebook group as well. And that's an opportunity for continued connection with one another. We also, I post different things that help them continue with the momentum and the motivation to do the work that they're focused on during that week. So it's a way for them not only to have that individual continued work, but again, another place to really connect. So it's woven in to a number of different facets of the program.
One of the things I see a lot is growth mindset. How do you feel that plays into a role with your program and women in midlife achieving this growth mindset? Do you feel that being in our head a lot, does that keep us where we are, keep us stuck and stagnant?
Oh, 100%. I'll maybe kind of answer that in two ways. First, I'll
Okay.
answer your last question. Are we stuck in our heads too much? 1,000%. And this is a particular challenge, for the women that I work with, who, again, are very successful, have achieved a lot in their careers, and the strategies of, or let me just say this, the skills and the abilities to be strategic and to be logical and and efficient and organized, and all of those strategies and skills are incredibly valuable and well honed, especially in their professional lives. And those skills are incredibly valuable in lots of aspects of life. But when we're talking about making a change like this, to step back, to really evaluate where you are in your life, to evaluate the work that you're doing, very often it's not a logical endeavor. And again, it doesn't mean that logic doesn't have its place, but it's such a big part of the work that I do with women, is to learn to become more connected to their intuition and to their instinct and their wisdom. I talk about it as being more inside out, right? Like really getting clear and connected to themselves internally to
Mm-hmm.
guide decisions. Because if we stay in the place of logic, well, as we've talked about, there's so many challenges. The logical decision is to not make a change like
Right.
this.
Right.
um, and so it is really, I think, fundamental to learn how to and to highly value making decisions from a place of intuitive. I talk about it as like as rightness, kind of capital R. What is right? What do I know to be true for
Mm-hmm.
myself? So absolutely, it's like, yes, the logic, the intellect. That's I think about it as like that's one tool. We
Right.
also have to be able to hone another tool that I think is critical in this process. So I can also share a bit more about growth mindset as well, but I wanted to talk about that in particular because, yes, being in our head too much ends up being a huge stumbling block and a huge roadblock for many women.
It's true what you said. I'm learning so much on this because you mentioned intuition. And yes, we can go back to growth mindsets. So remind me. Um, I got short term memory.
Yeah.
My mom, she would, oh my goodness, she would just get on my nerves so bad. And I don't know why, but it was because, she led with her intuition. And sometimes I'd be the parent, like, why are you saying that? Why are you thinking that? Why are you saying this about this person? I get so upset with her because I thought she was being overly critical or something like that or whatever. But what I get upset about was because she'd always end up being right.
Even worse. Even worse. She ended up being right. Yes.
I'm like, no proof, no
Yeah.
nothing, you know. And
Yeah.
so now I have, she got it from her mother and I got it from her. We have, yeah, I was in this car accident. I had to get all these tests done. And so that's one of the things that I scored high on, what a perception, things like that. So I have it too. But one of the things that holds me back is like what you said in my head. I'm like, well, I don't have any proof. Why am I thinking this way? So I do this thing where I bank it
Mm-hmm. Yes.
until,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and yeah, because I'm afraid or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm just like, I don't like why, and I chastise myself like, why are you thinking this way? Why are you feeling this way? And this and that and everything.
Yes.
And so yes, we do need to develop and hone in on our intuition and trust it.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was just about to say is, so much of the work that I do with women because, that into that relationship to our intuition, I talk about it, it is no different than any other relationship we have. It just happens to be between you and you. But it's no different than any other relationship. And if we want trust in a relationship, we have to be willing to, number one, listen, to value what we hear, and to be willing to act on it. What is trust is that we have this sense of like, yes, I can believe you. When I hear you, I believe you.
Right.
And yeah, and it is, and that is so much of, again, the work that I do with women. It's this process of again, first things first, learning how to hear what that part of them has to say, and then be willing to value it rather than question it, or minimize it, or all the things that we can do, and then to act on it. And to your point, it doesn't mean hastily or impulsively by any means,
Right.
but to, in a really intentional way, to give ourselves permission to act and to make decisions based on that sense of rightness and knowing, because it is in that process. I think about it as a feedback loop, right? Because then we get the real world experience of what it feels like to live and to make decisions from that place. And more often than not, it shows itself to be trustworthy. And so it's, yeah, to that trust is through experience.
I'm not sure if you do any writing, and I'm bringing this up because there's a section in the magazine that I purposely started, and it's called, I do it with a little hashtag relationship rules.
Mm,
And I knew that when I started, people would automatically assume we're talking about, you know, the relationships we get in, No.
right.
Most of the articles are about having a relationship with yourself.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I love that. I love that you have that in the magazine because, yeah, it's like so often people don't people don't recognize it as such. And when you really start to recognize it as like, this is the most important relationship that I have. And how,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes. 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 So I'm sorry I cut in, but I just wanted to like amen that because
Yes.
I, nobody knows that. And it's like, I hope I'm not getting off topic, but like, let's say you want to get in a relationship with someone. And I feel like this is why a lot of relationships do not work or there's a lot of divorces because the people don't know their own self.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And before you can get in a relationship with anyone, that relationship could be with a job.
Mm.
Before you get into a relationship with anyone, you first need to know yourself.
Exactly. I love your way of thinking about that, of like, and again, I do work so much work with women, of course, with career. And I love even thinking about it in that way of like, before you get into a new relationship with a new career direction, you first have to know yourself. I could not agree more, because it is with that clarity, it is with that attunement to yourself that you are able to just make decisions for yourself that bring people and situations and opportunities that are in alignment, with who you are, and who you want to be in the world, who you want to surround yourself with. Yes, it all starts internally first, and then everything else is a reflection, a tangible reflection of that.
So I did remember, we get to talk about growth mindset now.
Yes, yes, yes.
So how does that work?
Well, growth mindset, I really think about it in the way of, first and foremost, valuing growth, valuing possibility and opportunity and openness. I fundamentally think about it as living life in a continually creative, expansive way, where again you see, and fundamentally what that does is that, yeah, it's not only about the good stuff, the exciting stuff, it's also, and very often, about how we meet the hard stuff, the challenges, the obstacles, the failures. And I was doing a talk on this just a little bit ago, where when we can, for example, see failure in a way that fundamentally moves us forward and gives us more wisdom and gives us more knowledge, our failures can be our biggest growth. um,
Yes.
Fear is the same way,
Right.
when we move towards fear. But to our point, to connect the dots between all of this, when you have a deep connection to yourself and the rightness of a particular direction or decision, when you encounter fear, when you encounter failure in that process, it is the those experiences are what lead to more growth. And a lot of times, let's tie in like creativity, for example. We have to be creative and open and flexible to see new possibilities, to solve challenges that maybe we've never seen before or faced before, or faced fears. It is truly, in so many ways, this seeing challenges and obstacles and failures as the way that we grow, and as the way that our life becomes ultimately more expansive and creative.
If you could inspire listeners with just one takeaway about reinvention, maybe again, we'll just focus on career because we have so many things we that are wrong with us. What, I'm sorry. What would that be? One takeaway.
Oh, one takeaway. Well, the thing that I would say is give yourself permission to evolve. Um, it with career, especially. So, those of us, especially who are in midlife, my perspective is that we've just been given such a narrow definition of what career success looks like, and it does it, and it's limiting and it's constraining. And so I would love to leave women with the permission and the excitement that you get to, and you should evolve, you should grow, your career should not look the same, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, unless for whatever reason you continue to feel like it's the right thing. But for so
Right.
many of us, that's just so incredibly limiting. It is this model of success that I think we were given, that is constraining. And so, my biggest thing that I would encourage women to do is to see that not only can you, but you should evolve, you should grow, and your career can look like so many different things, and to give yourself permission to explore and to, again, grow and evolve, in all ways in your life and in your career.
What would you say now that you've sort of pivoted, you've been through this? what would you say is the most fulfilling part of this work you've been doing with helping other women and going through midlife?
It's so fulfilling, I think, to be alongside women and to help women live courageously,
Mm-hmm.
because I say it all the time, and I think like not everybody chooses to live that way. And there are
Right.
lots of reasons, and none of it's right or wrong. Um, but I personally find it so inspiring personally, and I love helping other women who also want to live in that way to learn how to and to have the support they need to be courageous in the choices that they make in their life and career. Because it's just such a privilege to be a part of and to help women with. Um, so that I think that that's such a big one for me. It's just so incredibly fulfilling to see women not take the path of least resistance, not just be constrained by fears and challenges, but to continue to pursue what's possible and make midlife a time of freshness and newness and reinvention. So it's just incredibly fulfilling to be a part of that.
And now that you've gone through this journey, if you could go back to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
I would say to not limit yourself. I think that was one of the biggest obstacles that I encountered. So much of it is how I was thinking at the time. I thought, for example, like, well, I've been so specialized. I've done the same thing. I can't go and do anything else because I was thinking so concretely and literally and in a limited way. And so I think to tell myself that the strengths and the skills that you have are they can be creatively applied in so many ways. And again, there's some practical parts of that with career change, but it's also a mindset of seeing possibilities, of seeing just creative ways of moving in different directions that feel genuine and authentic. But again, can be just really fresh and new and interesting. So that's what I would tell myself is to think expansively, to think about possibility and
Possibilities.
opportunity.
Right.
Um,
Possibilities.
yes, yes. So that is one of the biggest pieces of advice, and I think it would have made a huge difference. I would have gotten unstuck way, way faster.
That's so true. I resonate with that. I think that was my problem as well, is not seeing possibilities or accepting them or opening up doors or things of that nature, possibilities. And maybe that's what a lot of women, maybe we have this, I don't know what you want to call it. What I want to say, like this way I'm doing, you can't see me. I'm doing my hand like up and down, like, like going through this straight little path. Like we just,
Yeah.
and life's a checklist. You do this, you do, and everything. And I think that is something that most women, I'm not going to say all, because we don't know all women, but I think most women do resonate with that having to go through life like that whatever word I
Yes.
can't come with, my hand is like going through,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if this is what you're meaning, but like I just think, yeah, it's like we're given this very linear, one-dimensional like
yes.
way that success
Yes.
looks.
Thank
And
you. Thank you. You're
yeah,
the psychologist. Thank you. Thank you for getting into my head. Maybe I can get you to help me with some other stuff that's in there.
I am happy to. Yeah, but that's the thing is, yeah, we're given, society and our families, and it comes from all these different places. We're given this idea of what success looks like, and it is limiting, it's constraining, it disconnects us from ourselves and what's possible. And so that is, yes, that is one of the biggest things that is not only fulfilling for me, but one of the things I always want to shout from the rooftops really is that there are so many more possibilities than a lot of times we let ourselves see.
That's so true. Out of curiosity, I always ask everyone this question. What is your favorite quote motto or mantra that you live by every day?
Ooh, well, it's not particularly. It's a quote, and it's a bit of a one that's a lot to unpack. But it really is about. I'll preface it by saying that it really is about living in a responsive, intentional, non-reactive way. And the quote is, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in the space lies our freedom."
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so basically what it is like, we go through life and there's so many things that we can be reactive to. We can get frustrated by. We can say, "Oh, I don't want it to be this way," or "It should be different." And, so much that we encounter that we can resist and again, just be reactive to. If we learn to be able to pause and create space for ourselves, then we can move forward in a way. So much we talk today about like courage, right? Courage is moving forward in a way that is different than how our brains, want us, what our brains want us to do. So, I just think it is this reminder that I give myself every day to be intentional, to be responsive, and to have freedom.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing that. I have learned so much from you in just this short time we've been together. How can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your programs and your coaching services? Where would they go?
My website is the best place, and that is drbreeseannable.com. You can also find me on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. Dr. Breese Annable Coaching on Instagram and Breese Annable on LinkedIn. So those are great ways to connect.
Thank you so much. Thank you for, I know you're busy, and so I appreciate the time you coming in here and sharing your journey with our audience.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a pleasure.
And thank you all for listening and being in this space with us. Remember this, you are never alone. Use your voice to uplift others. I'm Eileen Carroll, and this is Unseen to Unstoppable.